So today, in this very special site, which is this place where the Buddha himself attained full enlightenment, and masters Nagarjuna and his followers and disciples, and Sangha, and his brother Vasubandhu and their followers. All of them have made their immense prayer for us, profound and extensive ones. So in this place, I wish to do the Bodhicitta ceremony in this very sacred place. So Bodhgaya, the Vajrasana, is considered to be the core site of Buddha Shakyamuni, and his teaching, the core of his teaching is the Four Noble Truths. Of course, the Buddha taught he gave other teachings as well, such as the 37 harmonies of enlightenment and so forth. But the essence of all these teachings is to discipline our mind, which means not just being selfish, thinking selfishly for your own gains and achievements and fulfillment and so forth, but thinking of and aspiring to bring happiness and well-being to all sentient beings who are as infinite as this space. So I wish to give a teaching to do this Bodhisattva Bodhicitta ceremony. I on a daily basis generate bodhicitta, as the prayer for bodhisattva vows and bodhicitta says, for the sake of one's interest and the interest of others. May I generate these generate bodhicitta, this altruistic spirit of enlightenment. So with selfishness, you always disturb your mind. Your peace of mind is lost. If you think of others' welfare, well-being, and happiness mainly, then as you become acquainted with this thought and this state of mind, you will hold others more dearer than yourself. And you will, in a way, disregard your own selfish happiness and well-being. And even when you face with encounter people who disparage you, you will be able to cultivate and feel compassionate towards themselves, as Bodhisattvacharya avatar of Master Shantideva says. So regarding bodhicitta, on the basis of reflecting on it, on the basis of equaling, exchanging self and others, this is what we need to cultivate bodhicitta through this means of cultivating bodhicitta. So you, as an individual, is a single person, and others are as infinite. And of course, the interest of oneself and others are always interconnected. The more you think about others' well-being, happiness, and so forth, the more you will have benefit for yourself. So regarding myself, since I received transmission of Bodhisattvacharya Avatara, then I, on a daily basis, reflect on and think about bodhicitta and the equaling and exchanging self and others. Unless you exchange your own happiness and blazons of joy and happiness with the suffering of others, live alone reaching Buddhahood, even if in samsara you will not have happiness. So the essence of all the teachings of the Buddha is bodhicitta. We should develop this sincerely. So if you are a believer in religion, of course you need to think of others' well-being, even if you are not a believer. But the 7 to 8 billion people on this earth, all of us do not want suffering, but want happiness. So we are all same in being human beings, and we also are same in taking food and drinks, tea, and so forth. But if you only work to feed yourself, that's not what we should do. But we should have this determination to work for the benefit of all sentient beings, that they may be able to fulfill their goals. And therefore, for that purpose, we should think of taking food and tea, drinks, and so forth. So in this very special sacred place of bodhicitta, regarding myself, on a daily basis, I meditate on bodhicitta and also the view of emptiness. It really helps my mind. It's beneficial to bring peace of mind within me. And what disturbs, when I face the conditions for disturbing my mind, they do not provoke anger, and I do not also have ill will towards those who might provoke anger, try to provoke anger in me. So the more they think of harming me, I would also feel the same. To that extent, I would feel compassion towards them and think of serving them. So if you have bodhicitta, all things appear as favorable conditions for you. All these different unfavorable conditions actually appear as favorable conditions. And therefore, in this sacred place, we should meditate on bodhicitta, bring up this have a clear idea of what bodhicitta is. That is to think, aspire to reach Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings, even if it may take eons and eons. From the depths of your heart, you should have that kind of strong and firm pledge to work for the benefit of others. And whatever you do in your day-to-day life, you should make them in being under the influence of this state of mind of bodhicitta. And so, to take bodhisattva vows, please imagine in the space before you Buddha Shakyamuni in the form of a Buddha in monk's robes. I think it was the day before yesterday. We had a meeting. Yeah, it was on the day before yesterday. We had a meeting at Wat Pa here in Thai monastery, and I saw a painting of the Buddha in front of me on the wall. And when I reflected on the Buddha, I had a kind of a feeling that the Buddha came down and actually stroked my head. And there were some sweets, and I had a very clear vision that the Buddha gave me a chocolate from amongst some candies. And so, what this shows is that if you sincerely carry on with the practice, carry out your practice of the Dharma as the Buddha had taught, and then the Buddha is always pleased and bless you. So I had that kind of epiphany of meeting, seeing the Buddha. And so if you really practice the Dharma, you'll really feel the taste of it, and the teaching becomes very alive within yourself. And then the great masters, like those of the 6 ornaments and 2 sublime masters, or the great masters of the extensive and profound lineages of the path to enlightenment. And so the Buddha himself went through the process of first generating or developing bodhicitta within himself, and then engaged in the practices of bodhisattva practices, and finally became enlightened. So bodhisattva practices include the accumulation of merit and wisdom, and then also the Buddha did his practice based on the understanding of the 4 Noble Truths. And so eventually he became fully enlightened, fully awakened being. And therefore the Buddha has said that I have been through this process of going through the 6-year austerity, and then also integrating teaching within myself, and then finally became enlightened at Vajrasana. And so if you also think of, reflect on bodhicitta and the view of emptiness sincerely and practice them, then Just as the Buddha became enlightened, having gone through the practice of the 6-year austerity and sitting under the Bodhi tree and finally become enlightened, you'll be able to attain the same kind of goal as the Buddha had attained. And so the Buddha will never fail us. He will never tell lie to us. So he taught what he taught from his experience. He taught the Four Noble Truths and then the Prajaparamita teachings, the teachings contained in the Panchaparamita Sutras. And through these teachings, by integrating these teachings within ourselves, what we must be able to do is to transform this unruly mind that we have now into the Buddha mind ultimately. And so, in other words, the clear and luminous and aware cognitive nature that of the mind that we have now should become the omniscient mind of a Buddha. And so this is the essence. What we are talking about is essence, practicing the essence of the teaching of the Buddha, bodhicitta, and the view of emptiness. So the extensive and the profound teaching of the Buddha, we should go through the process of hearing the teaching, listening to the teaching or studying the teaching, and then contemplating, reflecting on them, thinking over and over, and then meditating on it. And so, in this way, we will be able to become closer and closer to the Buddha himself and to reach the rank of enlightened ones. And we'll be just, in the end, be right next to the Buddha. And so you should feel determined to work for the welfare of others without any selfish motive. And finally, you'll be able to become a Buddha yourself. And so the Buddha was our teacher. He is our teacher. So just as the Buddha has first generated bodhicitta and then engaged in the bodhisattva practices and finally became enlightened, likewise we should also at this sacred site generate bodhicitta and work towards the bodhisattva practices for the benefit of all sentient beings as infinite as the space. And having generated bodhicitta, you should also feel determined to practice the bodhisattva practices. So within the bodhisattva vows, we have the 18 root downfalls to be avoided, and then 46 secondary infringements that we should avoid. And we should remind ourselves of these vows. And if you can do that on a daily basis, the text that we are going to use for the Bodhisattva vow here says, to fulfill the interests of oneself and others, I shall generate a mind for awakening. And so, for your own, to fulfill your own interest and the interest of all others, the short-term and long-term goals, all these will come through the bodhicitta. So if you have bodhicitta mind within yourself, you will be at peace and at ease in day-to-day life. And so understand that even if you want to fulfill your own goal or the goal of others, the short-term and long-term goals, It's the bodhicitta that will bring about such achievements. So in this sacred site of Vajrasana, feel fortunate that you have this opportunity to take bodhisattva vows. And of course, this is also a fruit of your past practices. So in front of you in the space, imagine the Buddha and the eight close disciples, bodhisattva disciples of the Buddha, and also the great masters of India, Master Nagarjuna, and so forth, and also Shantideva, the Shantarakshita who came to Tibet, and all the great Buddhist masters of Tibet. And so think that you will follow in their footsteps. So with this, we are going to do Bodhisattva vow. So as I explained earlier, so imagine the Buddha surrounded by his disciples, bodhisattvas and so forth. And then let us say the 7-limb prayer. You lions among humans, go to freedom in the 3 times in the worlds of 10 directions. To all of you with my 3 doors, since I bow down with energy of aspiration of what Bodhisattva vow, with the sense of deepest respect, and with as many bodies as atom of the world, to all you Buddhas visualized as real, I bow down. And so whatever slight positive potentials I may have created by paying homage, offering, acknowledging my faults, rejoicing and requesting that the Buddha stay and teach, I now dedicate all this for full awakening. And so imagine all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in person and think that just as the Buddha has generated bodhicitta and engage in the bodhisattva practices, and have this strong determination to follow in the footsteps of the Buddha and think of taking the bodhisattva vows, just as the Buddha himself has these bodhisattva vows within himself. So we are born as human beings, and have met with the teaching of the Buddha. Wherever I may be, whether I'm in India or whether you are in India or Tibet or so wherever, make this determination that you will work for the benefit of all sentient beings, for their happiness, well-being, until the space comes to an end. So, in order to take the Bodhisattva vows, please kneel on your right knee. Kneel on your right knee and be comfortable. We don't need to go through, say too many rituals, but we'll do the one verse and go through the one verse for refuge and Bodhisattva vow. So I take Bodhisattva vows every day as soon as I wake up, and you too should, if you could also do the same on a daily basis, generate bodhicitta. So if when you have a warm heart, you also feel physically healthy. So please repeat this 3 times after me. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, Dharma and Supreme Assembly through the collections of the wisdom. I seek refuge in the 3 jewels. I confess all misdeeds individually. I rejoice in the virtuous deeds of all beings. I take to mind Buddha's enlightenment to the Buddha, Dharma and highest assembly. I seek refuge until reaching enlightenment. To fulfill the interests of oneself and others, I should generate mind for awakening. Having generated the mind for highest awakening, I shall invite all sentient beings as my guests. I shall engage in the delighting supreme practices of enlightenment. May I attain Buddhahood to benefit all sentient beings. Please repeat it for the 2nd time. I seek refuge in the 3 jewels, confess all misdeeds, rejoice in the virtuous deeds of all beings, take to mind Buddha's enlightenment, to the Buddha, Dharma and highest assembly. I seek refuge until enlightenment is reached. To fulfill in myself, interests of myself and others, I should generate the mind for awakening. Having generated the mind for highest awakening, I shall invite all sentient beings as my guests. I shall engage in the delightful supreme practices of enlightenment. May I attain Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. And say it for the 3rd time as well. Seek refuge in the 3 jewels, confess all misdeeds, and say, as long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So with this, at this very sacred and special place, we have taken the Bodhisattva vows. We had this opportunity to take the Bodhisattva vows. And so I feel very fortunate to be able to give this Bodhisattva vow to you, and from your side, having faith and admiration towards me. With this, you also should feel that I will you'll follow in my footsteps as well to fulfill the aspiration of the Buddha. And so, Having taken the Bodhisattva vow once is not enough, but on a day-to-day basis, you should learn about the Bodhisattva vows, such as the 18 root downfalls to avoid and the 46 root downfall secondary infringements, as it is said in the 6th session Guru Yoga. The 18 root downfalls and the 46 secondary Bodhisattva branch vows should be studied, and you should know them and avoid pitfalls. So make the determination and prayer and aspiration that you will practice the Bodhisattva vows, you will generate bodhicitta and practice the Bodhisattva practices. So there is having generated bodhicitta and taking Bodhisattva vows has great benefit. You gain great amount of merit, and you also feel that you are making this human life a meaningful one, that you have made it a worthy, made yourself worthy of having obtained this human life. And so, in this, we have had this opportunity. We had the opportunity to take the Bodhisattva vows at this very sacred place today. And let us now make the Thanksgiving Mandala offering. So we will, of course, not finish the text, the Buddhist commentary on Bodhicitta, which was written by Master Nagarjuna. In Sanskrit, in the language of India, Bodhicitta, Vivarana, Nama. In Tibetan, Chanju Samjiteba. Homage to glorious Vajrasattva. So this text is related with Tantra, devoid of all real entities, utterly discarding all objects and subjects such as aggregates, elements and sense fields, due to the sameness of selflessness of all phenomena. One's mind is primarily unborn. It is in the nature of emptiness. So everything, external and internal, are devoid of any essential self-existence. So one's mind is primarily unborn. It is in the nature of emptiness. So everything in samsara and nirvana come from the mind. And when you analyze this mind, examine it, so if you try to find where this mind, which has the nature of clarity and awareness, you will not be able to pinpoint anything as being there. And therefore, utterly discarding all objects and subjects such as aggregates, elements, and so forth. And just as the blessed Buddha and the great Bodhisattvas have generated the mind of great awakening, I too shall from now until I arrive at the heart of awakening, generate an awakening mind, in order that I may save those who are not saved, free those who are not freed, relieve those who are not relieved, and help thoroughly transcend sorrow those who have not thoroughly transcended sorrow. So those bodhisattvas practiced by means of sacred mantra, after having generated awakening mind in terms of the conventional aspects in the form of an aspiration, must then produce the ultimate awakening mind through the force of the meditative practice. I shall therefore explain its nature. So now we are on verse number 1, bowing down to the glorious Vajra holder who embodies the awakening mind. I shall explain here the meditative practice of awakening mind that destroys cyclic existence. The Buddhas maintain the awakening mind. Number 2, to be not obscured by such. So verse number 4 down goes through the philosophical explanation of philosophical positions. And so verse number 4 says the self postulated by the extremists, it refers to non-Buddhists, when you thoroughly analyze it with reasoning within all the aggregates of body and mind, nowhere can you find locus for this. Verse number 6. If the so-called self does not exist, how can the so-called agent be permanent? If there were things, then one could investigate the attributes in the world. Since a permanent cannot function to cause in gradual or instantaneous terms, so both without and within, no such permanent entity exists. So if in verse number 8, if it were potent, why would it be dependent? For it would bring forth. That which depends upon something else is neither eternal nor potent. If it were an entity, it would not be permanent, for entities are always momentary, and with respect to impermanent entities, agency has not been negated. Verse number 16, 17. So verse number 18 says that partless particle cannot exist. Verse number 19 and 20. Number 21, 22. In terms of object and subjects, whatever appears to be consciousness, apart from the cognitions themselves, no external objects exist anywhere. 23. So there are no external objects at all, existing by way of entities. The very perceptions of individual consciousness arise as the appearance of forms, just as a person whose mind is deluded sees magical illusions and mirages. Verse number 25 teaches selflessness. So it also goes through the rejection of the Chittamatra philosophical view. says, by abiding in the state of mind only, the beings of great fortune even renounce that teaching. So verse number 26, for those who propound consciousness only, this manifold world is established as mind only. So even if they say this, everything is mind, the mind itself cannot be found. It has no birth. What might be the nature of that consciousness? I shall now explain it this very point. Verse number 27, 28, 29, 30, 31 then. The 33, 34. Likewise, the foundational consciousness too appears to be real, though it is false. In this way, it moves to and fro and retains the three realms of existence. 35. Just as the ocean and trees move, although they possess no mind, likewise, foundational consciousness too moves in dependence upon the body. 36. So if it is considered that without a body there is no consciousness, you must explain what is this awareness. This is the object of your own specific knowledge. 37. By calling it specific awareness of itself, you are asserting it to be an entity. Yet, by stating that it is this, you are asserting it also to be powerless. 38. Having ascertained yourself and to help others ascertain, the learned proceeds excellently, always without error. 39. The cognizer perceives the cognizable. Without the cognizable, there is no cognition. Therefore, why do you not admit that neither object nor subject exists at all? So, verse number 41 shows the nature of the mind being devoid of intrinsic existence. So verse number 41 says, either within or likewise without, or somewhere in between the two, the conqueror has never found the mind, so the mind has the nature of an illusion. The distinctions of colors, shapes, or that of object and subject, of male, female, neuter, the mind has no such fixed forms. In brief, the Buddhas have never seen, nor will they ever see such a mind. So how can they see as having an intrinsic nature that which is devoid of intrinsic nature? Entity is a conceptualization. Absence of conceptualization is emptiness. Where conceptualization occurs, how can there be emptiness? 45. The mind, in terms of perceived and perceiver, this is the Tathagata. This the Tathagata has never seen. Where there is the perceiver and perceived and perceiver, there is no enlightenment. Devoid of characteristics and origination, devoid of substantive reality and transcendent space, awakening mind and enlightenment possess the characteristics of non-duality. Those abiding in the heart of enlightenment, such as Buddhas, the great beings, and all the great compassionate ones, always understand emptiness to be like space. Therefore, constantly meditate on this emptiness, the basis of all phenomena, tranquil and illusion-like, groundless and destroyer of cyclic existence, as non-origination and as emptiness, or as no self, grasping at emptiness as such. Such meditation on a lesser truth is not true meditation. The notion of virtue and non-virtue, characterized by being momentary and disintegrated, the Buddha has spoken of their emptiness. Other than this emptiness is held. The abiding of a mind which has no object is defined as the characteristic of space. So they accept that meditation on emptiness is in fact a meditation on space. By the lion's roar of emptiness, all pronouncements are frightened. Wherever such speakers reside, their emptiness lies in wait. So when you understand that things are impermanent, you will be able to use your rational thinking that things have no essential core in and of themselves. So he's on commenting on verse number 55. Verse number 54, where he says, Master Nagarjuna says, in brief, if the Buddhas uphold the mind to be impermanent, how would they not uphold that it is empty as well? So impermanence is used to prove that things are empty of intrinsic existence. So dependent origination is a very significant thing to ponder. We say that things have no intrinsic existence. And when we say things are dependently originated, dependence does not deny or that of the lack of intrinsic existence, whereas origination or arising, with arising we conform to the conventions of the world. So these different things, good and bad, one and many, work in conventional terms. Therefore, dependent origination has a great significance to understand that things are devoid of any intrinsic existence, yet that they conventionally exist. So at this very sacred place, we have engaged in a very profound practice, special dharma, which is the bodhisattva, taking the bodhisattva vows. And so we have taken the bodhisattva vows at this very special place and also meditated on bodhicitta and emptiness. I, as the teacher, feel very fortunate to have this opportunity, and you, as the students and disciples, also are very fortunate. Due to different causes and conditions coming together, we are gathered here to have this discourse, and we should make this determination to make ourselves worthy of the being the practitioners of the Dharma, and make this aspiration. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the misery of the world. So with this, we are done. Oh.